willkommen, Herr Daly here. This video is going to discuss das Perfekt or the recent past in German. Now I say die jüngste Vergangenheit or the recent past because we are going to discuss something that happened a few minutes ago, last week, last month, as opposed to the distant past, which is something that happened last year, a few years ago, during your childhood. So you'll see the X is under recent past here, so this is the Zeitform that we are going to be discussing. If you looked at my video on das Präsens, you'll notice that I go through the top 50 present tense verbs and I've labeled them all numbers 1 to 49 and you can add in the last one. So likewise, when you go to the first one here, ich bin gefahren, number 1 here corresponds to number 1 of the present tense, and it'll also correspond to number 1 when I do the distant past and the future. So 1 corresponds to 1, 2 corresponds to 2. I won't go into too much detail about verbs taking ich habe or ich bin. The majority take ich habe. Verbs of motion and movement that imply going to and through a place or a change of state or location take ich bin. I have videos on how to explain it. Lastly, before we start, I also have videos discussing German word order, subject, verb, time, manner, place, whereby I discuss the first verb in any sentence is in second position, so that's why you have the ich bin or ich habe in second position. Any other verb goes to the end of that clause or end of the sentence. End of a sentence whereby it's the last word before a full stop. End of a clause whereby it's the last word before a comma. So I have number 1, ich bin gefahren. So your sentence will be ich bin. You say whatever you want to say, and the gefahren goes to the end. So you have to pay attention and notice that ich bin or ich habe for whatever verb is at the start, and then the gefahren or the whatever appropriate verb is at the end of a sentence or the end of the clause. So we'll start. Ich bin gefahren, I travelled. So if I said I travelled to Dublin, ich bin nach Dublin gefahren. So you open it up, so the ich bin or the ich habe at the start and the gefahren at the end of the sentence or the end of the clause. 2. Ich habe geholfen. So ich habe meiner Mutter geholfen. Ich habe at the start, meiner Mutter in the middle, and the geholfen goes to the end of the sentence or the end of the clause. The reason why it's meiner Mutter and not meiner Mutter's geholfen is it comes from the verb helfen. Helfen is a verb that takes the dative case. So meine goes to meiner, but like I have a video on that, but don't worry about it. So all you need to know is that the ich habe or ich bin at the start, your sentence goes in the middle, and the geholfen or the ge part goes at the end of the sentence or clause. Ich habe genommen, I took. Ich war, I was. Ich habe gearbeitet, I worked. Ich habe gegessen, I ate. Ich habe getrunken, I drank. Ich bin geflogen, I flew. For example, ich bin nach London geflogen. I flew to London. Ich habe gegeben, I gave. Ich habe geschrieben, I wrote. So likewise, if you looked at the Das Präsens videos, you'll note that 10 in Das Präsens is ich schreibe. Ich habe geschrieben, I wrote. Ich habe gespielt, I played. Ich habe gehört, I listened to. Ich habe angefangen, I started. So in this case, when you have a separable verb, it opens up and the re goes in between the separable verb. Excuse me. Ich habe gesprochen, I spoke. Ich bin geblieben, I stayed or I remained. Ich habe geschwommen, I swam. Normally, say when you're teaching students, you teach them ich bin geschwommen. But you can use ich habe geschwommen depending on if you use a direct object or how the functionality of the sentence changes. But you normally use ich bin depending on your audience being taught. Ich habe gesungen. I sang. Ich habe besucht. I visited. Ich habe aufgeräumt. I cleaned. Ich hatte. I had. Ich habe gelesen. I read. Ich habe gemacht. I made or I did. Ich bin gelaufen. I ran. So, for example, ich bin zu Hause gelaufen. I ran home. Ich habe gesucht. I looked for. Ich habe mich gefreut. I was looking forward to it. Ich hatte vor. I intended to, and the vor goes to the end of the sentence. Ich habe getanzt. I danced. Ich habe verdient. I earned. So, ich habe 5 Euro verdient. It goes to the end. I earned 5 Euro. Ich habe something ausgegeben. I gave my money for something. So, ausgeben is a separable verb. It opens up. The re goes in between. So, ausgegeben. Ich habe gekonnt. Ich habe gemusst. I must, but past tense of it. Ich habe gebraucht. I needed. Ich habe gespart. I saved. Ich habe gespendet. I donated. Ich habe gesehen. I saw. Ich habe studiert. I studied. Ich habe fern gesehen. I saw television or TV. So, Fernsehen, separable verb, break it up. Fern gesehen. Ich habe verstanden. I understood. Ich habe gedurst. I was able to or was allowed to. Ich habe gewohnt. I lived. Ich habe mich für interessiert. I was interested in. Ich habe spazieren gegangen. I went walking. So the verb is spazieren gehen. You separate it. Spazieren gegangen. Ich habe begonnen. I began. Ich habe geboten. I offered. Ich habe gefunden. I found. Ich habe getroffen. I met. Ich habe gerufen. I called. So, ich habe Maria gerufen. I called Maria. Ich habe verloren. Ich habe meine Tasche verloren. I lost my bag. Ich habe empfangen. I received.